Discover the Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast, hosted by Tiffany, Benitez, and Jordan Franklin. Here, the complexities of being a woman in the tech industry are unraveled through discussions on key issues, personal growth, and how to succeed despite systematic challenges. It's a source of empowerment and inspiration for all women at all stages of their tech careers. Welcome to Women in Tech Trailblazers, where we are here to release authenticity. We are super excited to be here, per usual, with you guys, but even more excited to be able to introduce Sydney Johnson. Yes, the Sydney Johnson for my U of A folks. And just to talk a little bit about Sydney, she has traded her Texas roots in 2020 for some Arkansas soil. So she came on down. And in 2023, she graduated from the University of Arkansas Honors Hospitality Program with a passion for the community and all of our amazing businesses that support it. She has now stepped into her career. She's an account manager with Tech Systems, which is a global business and technology services company. Gay Tech. She works within the digital technology focused division, and she helps clients find direction and provide unique perspectives. So what does she do outside of work? So outside of the office, Sydney is a self-proclaimed food and coffee critic. Who doesn't love coffee? I do. She is an author of the College Girl's Guide to Fayetteville, Arkansas. That's exciting. She is also a contributing writer for Fayetteville City Lifestyle magazine and aspiring world traveler and book lover. So welcome to the show, Sydney.
Thanks, you guys. I'm so excited to be here.
Welcome. We're excited to have you. But we always like to start our podcast off with kind of really setting the purpose of our podcast. We're here to talk about matters for girls and women in technology and bring awareness to topics that really never get talked about. We love the word authenticity and asking all of our people, what does authenticity mean to them? And that's how we start every podcast. So what does that mean to you, Sydney?
I love that. I think it means showing up the same in a crowd of people as I would behind closed doors. For me personally, I want to be the same Sydney Johnson with a little bit more added professionalism at the office as I am outside the office. And it feels really liberating to be able to do that. So I remember when I first started my job, and I only started 5 months ago, but I was so shy. I was so unsure of myself. I was honestly awkward because I didn't know what I was talking about. And I felt like everybody around me knew that and could just like sniff out the fact that I wasn't really sure of myself. But I will credit my amazing coworkers to allowing me to just have one-on-one time with everybody in the office. We got coffee and lunch, and they let me answer questions and ask anything I wanted. And just, it took time to build these relationships. And now I show up with my quirks and all, and cringy stories, jokes, stories outside of work and all. And I think that's just been really cool, because if I wasn't fully myself, I would rob others of the opportunity to truly know me and myself to fully impact others.
I absolutely love that. And I will tell you, sorry, Sydney, I didn't really share this, but Sydney was like, we were talking about doing a podcast. And I don't think she knew that like I was talking about her, that I wanted her to be featured. And so we went through this interesting process of, she was like trying to send us someone to be on there. And I was like, no, I want you. And you were like, oh, but it just shows that like, we're always like so busy, like getting everything together and getting it prepared, that we don't often stop to think like, oh, wow, like they're actually talking to me and they want me. And I didn't want the person that had been in their career. And Jordan and I talked through all this, like we want a multitude of people because the perspectives are invaluable. And we're going to get all kinds of different perspectives. And so I just wanted to share that, because I think a lot of times, we actually just had our quarterly event, talked about imposter syndrome. And a lot of times, like me, like you're wanting me to do it type of thing. And sometimes even like, let's be honest, like sometimes like earlier in our career and stuff like that, it's much easier to kind of fall into the, let me find you someone more experienced. But just to all of you guys out there and to Sydney, like never underestimate what you bring to the table, regardless of how early you are in your career or at your company, because you bring things that others do not and will not have. So, okay, so speaking of being a woman in tech, we just talked about your entry into tech and you're working for Tech Systems, which is amazing. Talk to me a little bit about what it's like to kind of be a woman entering her career, and especially in the technology field. Like, what are you seeing? What are you encountering, like good, bad, or indifferent?
So it's really funny the way I was brought into this industry, because you mentioned I was a hospitality major. I'm an author outside of work. I nannied for the girl that got me involved in technology. So I was her nanny in college, and she has worked for tech systems coming up on 10 years now. And she was like, you should consider what I do. Like, you'd be really good at this. And I was like, girl, I don't think so. And so we had a couple conversations, and she just saw potential in me to excel. She drew me in regardless of my experience or lack thereof. And so the past 5 months have been challenging and empowering all at the same time. I literally feel like I learn a new term every single day, like generative AI. That just popped up in the last year. And so in an industry that's constantly shifting and changing, I almost have felt this overwhelming pressure to know it all at once, which, newsflash, I have discovered is impossible, because there is so much that we all need to learn, and we all start at ground zero. And so that's something that I remind myself a lot of the time, is that like we all started with zero knowledge. We were all babies at one point. And so I try to expand my knowledge in bite-sized pieces and just stay curious. And then also learn through methods that suit my brain. So I am a visual learner, but I also process things better when I'm moving around. And so like taking walks, maybe like going up and down the stairs in my office and just like repeating things to myself, or just finding ways that are creative to just enhance my learning, because it is kind of overwhelming sometimes, but I know that it is that way for everybody.
No, I think that's a great point. So I'm in recruiting too and staffing, and I tell everyone it's not like you just woke up and said, hey, I'm going to be a recruiter today. And also there's no 5-year-old in the world that if you ask them, hey, what are you going to be when you grow up? They're like, yeah, I'm going to recruit people for jobs, or I'm going to help people fill them. So I think that's amazing that she pulled you in and gave you that opportunity, and it's something that you love and you're excelling at. So my question would be, being in a new industry, predominantly male driven, has there been any hurdles or biases that you encountered, or has there not?
I would say so. Within my company, it is kind of female heavy, and which has been awesome. But I know in the tech field as a whole, there is 26% of women. That's it. And so that has been interesting to know. Like, this is a field in which women are underrepresented. But what's funny is in the C-suite, there's more women than there have ever been before. And so my question was like, why are these women in tech scared to enter, like myself? And yet we are seeing such incredible movements where our professionalism is concerned. And so I think that is probably attributed to the imposter syndrome, like we were talking about, and then also just knowing that we're underrepresented and letting it hinder us. And so I found it interesting to note a lot of companies are going hybrid right now, and double the amount of women feel like they need to show up to the office compared to men. And I think this is because we feel like we have to prove ourselves a lot more. And so as I'm learning things that I did not even know existed prior to this job, I can absolutely experience that imposter syndrome. But I listen to y'all's podcast quite a bit, and Dee Davis from Tyson stated that we cannot overcome imposter syndrome. We can learn to navigate it. And so that's been something that I have used to fight my feelings of inadequacy, believing that I deserve a seat at my desk and I deserve to be in this industry and that I deserve opportunities. Because like we said, we all start at ground zero. And I'm actually on the sales side. So I'm an account manager, and I work with, people that may not even think that they need what I have to offer them. So the amount of rejection it's a lot, and it can be tough sometimes, but for every loss, there's also wins, and I have to see that as progress. And I think that's been another thing to know, is just one good thing every day that I can list, like what happened today that I'm proud of. And that has helped fuel me along when I feel a little bit of that imposter syndrome coming in.
I love that. Yeah, we had Dee again at our quarterly event because she's just so amazing on that topic, and like we need to hear about it. And that's what she was saying. She was like, celebrate the wins along the way. Like, we often wait for like this big goal or the end of the journey or some major there to actually celebrate. And we need to remember and remind ourselves that we achieve so much every single day. Like, listen, getting up out of the bed, taking a shower, getting to work, getting all your kids where they need to go, that is a win, right? Or whatever your situation looks like. And I think we're just looking for those big things. And I think we need to learn how to celebrate not just ourselves, but others along the way. And we're talking about here today, we're here talking about like integrating work and life together. And I will tell you, honestly, Sydney, your generation gives me hope, because there's some things that you guys need to teach our generation on work-life balance. And so our generation is very focused on work. We sacrifice, we work really hard. And not that working hard is bad, But when it takes over everything about you and then we just call it sacrifice, right? With what is the real gain out of that? Like, is a title enough? Is a fill in the blank, whatever it is, enough? But you guys actually really have it figured out on understanding what work-life balance is and how to really focus in on that. And so I'm just curious on your perspective of how you experience balancing a career in tech with other responsibilities that you have outside of work.
Yeah, it's super interesting that you say that, because
let's take a moment to thank our sponsors, Women in Technology of Northwest Arkansas and Gumption at my-gumption.com, for their support. Their contributions are critical in bringing these meaningful conversations to you. Stick around for more engaging discussions right after this break.
there are people in my office that have experienced a time where they worked from 7 to 7 and that was normal. And I sort of told them, I said, if that was the case, I would not have worked here, because I'm sorry, no, thank you. And I will say I wear a lot of hats outside of work. I'm a daughter, I'm a sister, I'm a girlfriend, I'm a friend, I'm an author, I'm a small group leader, write for Fayetteville State Lifestyle, and I help plan events for Northwest Arkansas Social Club. So outside of the office, like, there's a lot that I'm trying to balance. And I think balance is a myth, so I will call it effective juggling, but that takes intentional planning. And so one thing is really starting my day from my 5 to 9, so 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. with a good, solid morning routine, which, sometimes I miss my workout, but I try to get my workout in early. I have a quiet time of reflection. I eat a healthy breakfast. I take a short walk because the sun is good for us. Those of us that sit in office most of the day, especially too. And then I listen to a podcast to fuel creativity on the way to work. And then from 9 to 5 are my work hours. And unless I need to have things done past that, like, let's say we've got like a really tight deadline or something, 5 p.m. on is my time. And I will say that I try to have an attitude of, I will not remember how many nights I stayed late and my yearly sales quota, but I will remember the relationships I made and the memories I made. And so reminding myself of what's truly important has helped me when I maybe feel a little guilty for, oh, like, I feel like I should stay later because I don't want to be the first one up, or I feel like I need to put more time in just to prove myself. Like, that's just not what's going to last. And when we're like on the end of our lifespan, what we're going to think about as what's important. And so while there are deadlines that matter and we need to work hard, I think, like you said, don't sacrifice your life for that.
Jordan, seriously, I'm sorry. Well, we're going to stop for a second, okay? We're not just going to like brush by that, but can we be real for a second? Like, I need some of what you got. I mean, I have a routine. I thrive on routine. And I will tell you, in my mid-40s, I'm slightly getting to the place where you're at, Sydney. And this is what I'm saying. Like, you guys have figured this out, and you do not let what anyone else thinks or says impact what it is that you're going to do. You're still going to come to work. You're going to work hard for the time that you're there, but you are also going to enjoy the rest of your life. And I got like 25 years here that I'm wishing I could go back and be like, why did I not know this? Like, could someone have told me this in my 20s? Because I'm over here like tired as crap. Like, and I'm just now figuring it out of like, yeah, I actually am going to come to work. I'm going to do a good job, but I'm also going to invest in and make time for the things that matter to me. Jordan, what are your thoughts? Because I'm over here like, what?
Well, I definitely didn't do that. I do that more now, right? But I definitely didn't do that when I first got into the sales game, right? So I think there's different drivers, right? For me, my driver was, I want to be number one. So I wanted to be number one over everyone in the whole organization. And so for me, if that took working till 7, then that took working till 7, but that was my goal. Now, I think there's a good way, and like she said, it's effective juggling. I think there's a good way to say, okay, I'm going to work till 7 today, right? But working till 7 every single day this week's not going to help me, So I really think it really depends on what your inner driver is. And I'm just uber competitive. So I just want to see that there's number one next to my name. But if your inner driver is being effective at your job and being effective at everything else in life and winning at that game, then that's your driver. And that's what mine eventually turned to, right? Like, you don't always have to be number one. But I think figuring out what makes you tick is the answer, because that's what you're going to be happy at the end of the day. You're going to be happy with your decisions if you made the decisions on what you're passionate about and what makes you tick, even if that's work or if that's not work, But I do think that the generation that's entering the workforce has really outlined and understand what makes them happy. So if it's not their job every single day, then they've set out to say, okay, these are the things that make me happy, and I'm going to do these from 5 on. And I think they've been great at doing that.
And I also will say I attribute it to COVID a little bit, because COVID forced us to slow down. Like, I graduated high school from my room. Like, it wasn't like we had the choice to go to school. And so having that much rest and then going back into maybe what felt normal at a time didn't feel normal anymore. It felt like crazy. And I agree with you. If y'all know your Enneagram numbers, I'm a 3, which is the achiever. And so throughout all my life, I've overcommitted myself. I've underrested, and it has bit me in the butt 1,000 times. And so entering corporate, I was like, I cannot let this happen again. And I don't live for anybody else besides myself. Obviously, I have people in my life that matter a ton to me, and their input is very important. But if someone is going to judge you or me or you about what time you leave, I mean, that's not anything to worry about, because it's your life. And so that's one thing that entering the corporate world, I really want to make a point to inspire other people, is take ownership of your life and your schedule and what you want from it.
Yeah, I tell my teams that, so I think we're under some misconception that the more hours you spend equals the more success. That's actually not true. So 85 hours in your seat or at your desk or at the office does not equal the most productive person. The most productive person is the person that in the 8 hours can get the most done. And I think we really need to understand that, share that message with others, because I think even corporations share something completely different. And so what happens is you have people earlier in their career that are getting their information, their direction, they're getting it from either what the company is telling them or what their peers are telling them. And I think that's where you have a strong advantage, your generation versus ours, because back to Jordan's point, if I want to be number one, we were told if you want to be number one, then you're going to have to be the one that's working all the time, that you're staying late, that you're doing all the things. But what I've learned in my mid-40s and after a very long career in technology is that actually being number one sort of comes natural. You do have to do work, but if you work really hard and you perform really well, that speaks for itself. You don't have to worry about competing, because people that are naturally great just shine as such. So I don't have to, I personally, and we're all different in how we look at this, but I personally don't have to compete, because number one, I want us all to win. Number two, that's what will make me stand above others, is the fact that I authentically want everyone to win, and that I'm going to create spaces for people to be seen and to win. That's what makes somebody, in my eyes, personally. And so I just think we have to, that's the point of the podcast, right? Is how are we having these conversations to talk to a multitude of people and generations where they start hearing oh, wow, it's actually okay to do that. I can leave work at 5 o'clock and not be judged. Also, you said something powerful, these people are not paying your bills. If they judge you, who cares? I have this theme. What you say about me and what you think about me are none of my business. If I know I'm authentic and I'm coming from a genuine place, I actually don't care what you think or you say about me. I'm going to continue on doing what I need to do.
I really think you had a really good point back there, that being number one is kind of natural. Okay, so Sydney, we heard that you do other things and you're an author and all of that. We're getting somewhat close on time, so I just want to make sure that we ask what in the community, what networks do you support? Would you suggest? All of those kind of things.
Yeah, good question. So for starters, I will say Women in Tech, I'm so happy I uncovered this one. I actually uncovered it through a coworker who brought a couple of us to y'all's big annual event. And I actually shed a tear when listening to the girls in tech describe how much of a game changer mentorship has been to them. Because, my coworker who took a chance on me, she did not have to do that, but she did. And so it makes me want to do the same for others. Because if you believe in someone, they're so much more apt to believe in themselves. And so for starters, Women in Tech, Northwest Arkansas, game changer for me, just knowing that that's there. And then next up, Northwest Arkansas is not tech specific, but it's a very large community of members that brings professional women, allies, and corporate partners together. And they create leadership opportunities. They promote women's voices in the workplace, and they ensure that every woman in business can seize really amazing opportunities. And so knowing that that is there has been really awesome. They have a ton of networking events. And then I think for those listening who maybe don't have that, start it, because you guys did that. I mean, this did not exist before. And I think that there's so much power in being a trailblazer, because a lot of us are scared to do that. And we see a need, but we don't want to be the one that, takes the action that will help thousands of women. So.
I love it. Okay. So if you had to leave our audience with one final piece of advice, what would it be?
I would say that no matter where you started, no matter what you majored in, no matter what career switch you have made or want to make, you are capable of entering this industry, and do not let anybody tell you different.
I love that. I love that. I think that's so true, because I mean, it's like 90% of people don't use the education that they went and got a degree in. So obviously hospitality, now in sales. I mean, that's quasi, right? You're still working with people. Mine was science, and then sales and hiring. And Tiffany, I know you were
a political science major. I was going to be a lawyer, and here I am sitting in tech.
There you go. So we are all birds of the same feathers of the same. I don't know how you say that saying, but you know what I mean. We flock together. That's what I was trying to say. I am so happy to have you on this podcast. Thank you so much for your time today. I know Tiffany always closes this out, but I want to make sure to remind everyone to subscribe and follow. And then other than that, thank you so much, Sydney.
Thank you, guys.
Yes.
This is awesome.
Thank you for joining us. We absolutely are so super grateful. And to our audience, everyone out there listening, we're super excited that you could join us, and super grateful that you continue to follow. You will see Sydney's socials pop up at the end of this episode. So reach out and connect with her and watch all the amazing things that she'll continue to do, not only across Northwest Arkansas, but everywhere that she sets her feet. Have an amazing day.
Thanks. Bye.
Well, that's a wrap. Another episode of Women in Tech Trailblazers podcast. Thanks for tuning in and sharing this time with us. If you liked what you heard, please share this episode with your friends in tech. And don't forget to subscribe to our podcast. Your support helps us keep bringing in inspiring guests and uncovering topics that matter to you. Until next time, keep pushing boundaries and making your mark in the tech world. Goodbye for now.